New York wrote a $12 billion plot twist in 2005. The question is, what kind of ending 2026 will deliver for buyers, renters, and anyone watching the skyline? Start in Manhattan, at a price point where the numbers are crisp and the views are sharper. Sales of homes priced at $4,000 and above totaled nearly $12 million in 20.5. Buyers signed 1,436 contracts in that bracket, an 11% jump from 2022. Trophy properties, the rarefied deals at $10,000 or more, claimed 284 of those contracts. It was the second biggest year in nearly 2 decades for that slice of the market, trailing the record pace of 2021, when 400 trophy properties traded hands and nearly $16 million moved at the very top. The engine behind this surge was simple and potent. A winning combination of strong gains on Wall Street and reduced prices across luxury segments, a tandem that fed both appetite and acceptance. When more capital meets softer pricing, friction gives way to flow. Zoom in on where the biggest checks cleared. 4 of the top 10 deals of 25 lined up along West 57th Street, the narrow canyon nicknamed Billionaire's Row. 2 of those closings were brand new homes at Central Park Tower. One was a resale at 111 West 57th Street, a sliver of stone and glass that carries a pre-war heartbeat into a hyper-modern sky. Not every headline lived on that corridor, though. In March, a 5-bedroom, full-floor home at 220 Central Park South traded quietly for $82,500. Later in the year, an ultra-luxe residence at Ammon, New York, inside the Crown Building in Midtown, closed at $65,000. Downtown claimed its own victory with a $60,000 deal at 150 Charles Street in the West Village, the lone downtown entrant among the year's most expensive sales. A single-family mansion at 973 Fifth Avenue, designed by Stanford White and set directly across from Central Park, sold for $46,000 in May. Even with nearly $12 million in luxury contracts, the top tier didn't match 2021's records, but it didn't need to. 2025 wasn't about recreating a frenzy, it was about proving that liquidity could return without excess. The causal chain started above the streetlights. Gains in financial markets minted bonuses and buoyed balance sheets. Reduced prices across the luxury segment widened the base of buyers who could stretch into rarefied listings. The result wasn't subtle. 1,436 contracts on homes at $4,000 or more, up 11% year over year, and $450,000. Numbers like these don't materialize by accident. They thrive when confidence meets opportunity. They endure when the pipeline of next move buyers stays full. Meanwhile, the rest of New York City pointed toward a different kind of acceleration. Projections for 2026 anticipate the highest number of home sales since 2022. The mechanism isn't magic, it's math. Mortgage rates are expected to inch down while still riding above 6%, keeping monthly payments elevated enough to weed out froth, but not so high as to suffocate demand. Homes will likely sell faster. The metric to watch is days on market, the number of days a listing typically sits before a buyer signs a contract. The median days on market was 62.8 days. In 2026, that number is expected to decline, a signal that well-priced listings will move with greater speed. There's another lever set to reshape the buying side. More listings are expected to hit the market. More supply doesn't eliminate competition, it modulates it. In 2021 and early 2022, the frenzy turned every showing into a race. 2026 isn't forecast to go back to that. If sellers step forward while rates hover above 6%, the playing field tilts just enough for buyers to keep a sense of agency, even as time becomes a sharper constraint. Watch how buyers plan to cope. In a recent survey, 56% of prospective New York City buyers said they intended to purchase with a co-buyer. This isn't just spouses. 9% planned to buy with friends. 6% planned to buy with relatives. That's a social adaptation to cost. Split the down payment, split the mortgage, broaden the search. Multifamily setups, duplexes and triplexes that let buyers co-own while carving out separate space, have become a strategic target. The catch is supply. Finding the right multifamily home at a tolerable price is closer to needle in a haystack than a weekend errand, and the city's policy environment will need to loosen constraints before shared ownership can scale on its own momentum. Renters, meanwhile, are walking into 26 with a headwind. Rents in New York City rose by almost 5% in 25. Signals suggest that pace won't cool meaningfully in 2026. The reasons are stubborn. There aren't enough apartments to go around. When job security wobbles for some and mortgage rates keep ownership out of reach for others, people stay put. Declining vacancy rates leave fewer options. More tenants chasing fewer available homes almost always means rising rents. This is why 2026 will most likely feel tougher for renters than 2025, and 2025 already saw that nearly 5% climb. There is a twist in the rental story, and it runs counter to instinct. Luxury doesn't always mean expensive in the way you expect. In 2026, it's the new build that may look comparatively affordable after incentives. Landlords in new buildings facing a thick stack of similar units are using concessions, free months of rent or other discounts to fill apartments. Since 2019, rents in new buildings, after factoring in those deals, have risen about 20%. In older buildings, where concession culture is thinner and locations are often closer to transit or long-established neighborhoods, rents have jumped 23.1% over the same period. That inversion is telling. Flood a segment with supply and you temper prices. Starve it and the numbers run ahead. Look at how buildings are responding. Renters are aging up, staying longer, and asking for more, community as much as square footage. In newer buildings, 61% offer lounges where space and time aren't as constrained as in the city outside. 63% deliver rooftop decks, a precious urban amenity that makes a small apartment feel bigger on clear days. Co-working spaces, the third place between home and office, appear in 19% of new buildings, compared to 11% in older stock. Wellness spas, once a niche perk, show up in 29% of new construction. This is product market fit for the modern renter. Plug in the laptop, unroll a yoga mat, and pretend the elevator ride is a commute. Whether you're 25 or 55, that blend of convenience and community makes renting feel less like a stopgap and more like a lifestyle. Back at the top of the market, the year's most cinematic deal carried a whisper more than a shout. In March, that $82,500 closing at 220 Central Park South unfolded off-market, a quiet trade for a full-floor home overlooking the park. Off-market doesn't mean off-radar. These transactions ripple through appraisers' spreadsheets and set soft benchmarks that brokers track. Midtown added a $61,000 notch at the Crown Building's Amman, New York. Downtown's $60,000 closing at 150 Charles Street reminded everyone that the West Village can play the trophy game too. And on Fifth Avenue, the $46 million mansion sale in May showed that legacy addresses still command 21st century bids. Stack those up against the corridor effect on West 57th Street, where 4 of the 10 costliest deals of the year clustered, including 2 new homes at Central Park Tower and a 1101 West 57th Street resale, and you see how gravity works in this market. Money drifts to a few place names. It makes the map look lopsided. It also creates a price ladder the rest of the market reads, rung by rung. So what happened in 2026? Across Manhattan's luxury tier, nearly $12 million moved at $4,000 and above, 1,436 deals in total, with 284 at $10,000 or more. Why? Gains on Wall Street and reduced pricing in the luxury bracket put fuel in the system. Who felt it? Developers and sellers at the top, yes, but also buyers who'd been waiting for softer asks. In the citywide market, buyers faced 68 days on market as a median in 25, a figure expected to fall in 26 as rates edge down but stay above 6%. Renters absorbed almost a 5% rent increase through 25-, with pressure likely to intensify in 20- amid undersupply and low vacancy. And all over the 5 boroughs, a new pattern, co-buying, gathered strength, with 56% of prospective purchasers saying they plan to team up, including 9% with friends and 6% with relatives. The causes of this new alignment are internal and external. Internally, New York is building anew in slices. When developers bring more units to market, as they did in the last several years, they don't always ease the rent burdens in older buildings. The numbers lay that out. From 2019 to now, new building rents climbed about 20% after concessions, while older buildings saw a 23.1% jump. That differential emerged because new supply often arrives with incentives baked in. Externally, monetary conditions frame choices. If mortgage rates hover above 6% through 26, they will continue to nudge some would-be buyers into the rental pool, which tightens vacancies and pushes rents. If rates inch down but remain elevated, sales velocity can still rise, but the path is narrower. And for the very top of the market, financial market, windfalls matter. 2027's luxury rebound didn't happen in a vacuum. It was tethered to money made uptown and downtown in offices where the light never goes off before midnight. On the ground, the effect is visible in showings and response times. Days on market, a simple clock measuring how long it takes a listing to go from posting to signed contract, was 60 to 8 days at the median in 2025. In practice, that means a well-priced co-op in Brooklyn or a condo on the Upper East Side might sit through 2 or 3 weekends before going off the table. If the city hits the expected faster clip in 22.6, that clock shortens. Buyers who hesitated at 68 days will need to recalibrate at, say, mid-50s or lower. The number will vary across neighborhoods, and any decrease, even a modest one, changes behavior. An apartment that once tolerated a second visit may no longer wait. Business is the hinge on that door. More new listings are expected to appear in 2026, enough to prevent a replay of the 2021 frenzy. A shopper who saw 10 options in 2024 could see a dozen or more in 2026. Those 2 extra choices don't dissolve urgency, they blunt it. And they create a chance for co-buyers to find deals that match their shared criteria, whether that means a duplex with separate entrances or a triplex where one unit serves as a rental. Walk back into the rental lobby and the contrasts sharpen. In a new building, the leasing agent might talk first about a concession, 1 month free on a 12-month lease, maybe a little more on an 18-month term. That affordability is a composite number. After concessions, the effective rent looks competitive, which is why since 2019 new building rents, adjusted for deals, are only up about 20%. In older stock, where free months are rarer and coveted locations command premiums, rents have risen 20 to 3.1% over the same span. If you care most about price per month, the elevator and skyline view become negotiable. If you care about a block you've loved for a decade, be prepared to pay. Amenities serve as tiebreakers in that calculus. Among newer buildings, 61% offer lounges that absorb the overflow of life, birthday dinners, book clubs, or a quiet corner on a rainy Tuesday. 63% put rooftops into play, essential square footage in a city where parks get crowded. Co-working areas, 19% in new buildings versus 11% in older ones, rewrite the work-from-home story with a change of backdrop. Wellness spas appear in 29% of new construction, an indulgence that doubles as a sales pitch in a city that rewires itself around health and convenience. These aren't just features, they're strategies to keep renters past their first renewal. As the average age of renters creeps up, the buildings adapt, slowly becoming neighborhoods unto themselves. Not every narrative can be told with blueprints and spreadsheets. Some of the year's most resonant moments came from specific front doors. That $82,000, $500,000 sale at 220 Central Park South in March carried a certain quiet power. A full-floor home in a limestone tower, traded off-market, the buyer linked through an LLC to a family known for owning the Miami Dolphins and Blockbuster Video. In Midtown, $66,000 at Amman, New York, tied 21st century luxury to an early 20th century shell, the Crown Building. Downtown, a $60,000 sleek duplex at 150 Charles Street, a West Village haven for celebrities, stood as proof that the downtown market can still surprise the Midtown faithful. Uptown 973 Fifth Avenue's $46,000 sale in May put a Gilded Age facade back into the ledger of 2025, a single-family exception in a year dominated by condo towers. The ripple effects run beyond prestige addresses. Developers read the top of the market as a confidence gauge. When 2004 contracts at $10,000 or more ink in a year, it validates the pipeline of future projects pitched to that buyer. When nearly $12 million transacts at $4,000 and above, lenders and equity partners pay attention. Price reductions in luxury segments during 2025 didn't just help clear inventory, they repaired trust. End users, people who plan to live in these homes rather than flip them, could see a number and believe it. That belief sustains a slower, healthier cycle. The buyer pool beneath the ultra-luxury bracket is shifting too. 56% of would-be purchasers planning to co-buy is a staggering change in a city where ownership traditionally meant a single household. 9% looking to buy with friends and 6% with relatives marks a structural adaptation. It's not just a financial tool, it's a cultural one. Third-way ownership, where keys and equity are shared without a marriage certificate, reshapes who gets to live where. Duplexes and triplexes become instruments as much as homes, letting two households anchor in one building, sharing bills and responsibilities. In the background, older New Yorkers looking to downsize within the city add another layer of demand for multifamily setups where proximity and privacy can coexist. Policy will matter here. The City of Yes for Housing Opportunity Plan, coupled with new tax incentives, signals that the path to more housing could widen. The impact hinges on implementation. If rules ease and incentives work, multifamily options could grow, co-buying could transition from hack to norm, and pressure on both rents and prices could soften. If not, the needle in haystack search will remain the rule. For renters, the base case is sobering. With rents up almost 5% in 25-20, the trajectory into 25-20 6 points higher. Consider the ingredients: a chronic undersupply, caution around job changes that keeps people in place, mortgage rates expected to stay above 6% that slow the move from renter to owner, and a vacancy rate that's drifting down. That mix makes competitive markets more competitive. It also increases the power of concessions in new buildings. If a building offers 2 months free and a wellness spa, and an older walk-up offers nothing but location, the math becomes irresistible. Since 2019, the new versus old rent growth split, about 20% versus 23.1%, shows how incentives and amenities can fend off price spikes, but only within a narrow lane. The economic choreography at the top ties back to trading screens and earnings calls. 2025's luxury run owes a lot to Wall Street. If 22-6 brings a similar set of gains, anticipate that the year's highest-end deals will continue to post big numbers. If markets wobble, that $10,000-plus bracket will feel it first. Even then, the base built-in 2026 luxury contracts, 284 trophies, should cushion a slide. Price adjustments grease the skids in 2025. They can do it again if needed. There is a lesson in 2021's outlier. 400 trophy properties traded in that year, totaling nearly $16 million at the top. 2025's numbers are big, but they're not that. They don't need to be for the market to be healthy. The aim for 2026 is speed without panic, liquidity without froth, and opportunity without illusion. With a median days on market of 68 in 2025 and an expected decline ahead, every actor in this market, buyers, sellers, lenders, builders, will be tested by time more than price. What's next? The base case for 2022, more homes listed than in the last few years, the fastest sales pace since 2022, mortgage rates nudging down but staying above 6%, and renters facing another uncomfortable climb in asking rents. New buildings will woo with concessions and community spaces, lounges in 61% of them, rooftops on 63%, co-working rooms at 19% versus 11% in older stock, and wellness spas in 29%, while older buildings leverage location and character to defend rents that have risen 23.1% since 2019. On the buying side, co-ownership continues to gain traction, with 56% of prospects planning to pair up, including 9% with friends and 6% with relatives. The luxury tier remains active enough to power headlines, especially along West 57th Street at Central Park Tower and 111 West 57th Street, and in marquee addresses like 220 Central Park South, the Crown Building, 150 Charles Street, and 973 Fifth Avenue. Two watch items sit on the dashboard. First, the performance of financial markets through 2026. Wall Street windfalls and reduced asking prices were the twin propellants of 2025's luxury surge. If bonuses fade or equities falter, expect a thinner pipeline of $10,000 plus contracts. Second, the trajectory of mortgage rates as the year unfolds. Expectations place them above 6%, but small moves matter. If rates slip lower, the faster sales pace could accelerate and tilt negotiation power toward sellers. If rates drift higher, speed could stall and buyers might demand deeper concessions across price tiers. A third signal, linked to policy, is worth tracking too: the implementation of the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity plan and new tax incentives. If these translate into permits and groundbreakings, the city could see incremental relief in both for sale and rental inventory. If not, scarcity will continue to define the slope of prices. In 2025, New York City proved it could absorb almost $12 million in Manhattan contracts at $4,000 and above, add 1,436 deals to the ledger, increase the total by 11% over 24,000, and count 284 trophy contracts without overheating. It showed that 4 of the 10 biggest trades could cluster on West 57th Street and still leave room for a $60,000 win in the West Village and a $46,000 mansion on Fifth Avenue. It reminded renters that almost 5% annual rent growth had bite, but also that concessions could make new buildings feel unexpectedly attainable, as rents in new construction grew about 20% since 2019 versus 23.1% in older buildings. It trained buyers to watch the clock, 62 median days on market, and prepare for that number to drop in 26. It introduced a co-buying era, where 56% of would-be owners planned to team up, including 9% with friends and 6% with relatives. And it pointed to 2026 with cautious confidence. More listings, faster sales than any year since 2022, rates above 6%, and a city that is still teaching itself how to share space and equity more creatively. The skyline always writes in numbers. Sometimes they're as big as $82,000 at $210,000 at 220 Central Park South in March, or $66,000 at the Crown Building. Sometimes they're as personal as a $10,000 monthly rent in a building, where a co-working lounge, a rooftop deck, and a wellness spa shift the value proposition. Sometimes they're simply the days a listing sits waiting 60-8 in 2025 before someone decides to write their next chapter. As 22-6 begins, speed will rise, rents will lean up, and the distance between aspiration and access will be measured in percentages and patience. For those who prepare, buyers with partners, renters doing the math on concessions, sellers pricing to the moment, the city's next act won't be a surprise. It will be a plan. If this helped you see where New York real estate is actually heading, share it with someone making a move in 26.